Video? Recording? Video? Hello? 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 Audio? Hello?
Hello. Check, 1, 2.
Give me a clap.
Oh.
Give me one of those claps. Yeah, that everybody's always talking about.
Sync
Nice.
that audio, baby.
Cool. All right. Quick water before it's too late. Wow, it's like exactly at 7 o'clock almost. Well done. So, there's not actually anything wrong with the screen on your phone or your tablet or your computer or your TV. If you're watching this on a TV, this is like the last medium I would expect to see this particular piece of media on. But wherever it is, it's the Aridonis Podcast. And I'm Aridonis, and I'm here today with boop, 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 hit the button, Taylor.
Hello.
Who goes by Miles Mono on, music.
It is all on music.
It's on music, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, hold up. Is your audio a little too hot? I'm gonna just trim you down.
Little spicy.
A little spicy.
Woo.
Everything's okay, though. And the video hasn't failed.
Looking good.
Life's good. Life's good. So yeah, you make some music. It sounds cool. It's like they are beats of the lo-fi persuasion for the most part. Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah.
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 What got you into doing that?
Oh, I always kind of wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I think since I was a kid, I wanted to do it. But the big push happened with COVID.
Right.
I had a guy move in with me and become my roommate, who's a rapper. Shout out to TBK.
Right.
That was a really big experience. He's 98% blind.
Oh, wow.
And so music is like his entire life.
Right.
We became quite good friends, and he heard me just making little garbage techno beats in my room and really, really believed in me. And he was the first person to really like push me to do it. So we'd sit in my room for hours a day and just make beats.
Nice.
We'd be like, okay, this is the problems that I see with it. You know, maybe we could tweak it a bit this way. And we just spent most of the first year of COVID, I think about a straight 6 months, just seshing out beats.
So
getting the practice in, yeah.
So you basically just described like a kung fu movie plot class. Like I had this guy I was living with who was blind, and he like taught me the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, exactly. I could put together a montage and everything.
Yeah, it's like we just spend hours a day making beats. That's awesome. That's that's an origin story. That's a legit origin story.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where'd the name Miles Mono come from?
He had a friend who was quite good at naming things. It was a producer that kind of took me under his wing for the first few months I was producing as well. And we sat down one day, and I had an EP that I wanted to put out, and the only thing I couldn't figure out how to do was come up with a name. So we just sat there. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
We just sat there for a couple hours, and he just asked me questions about artists that I liked.
Was he taking notes?
He was. Yeah.
Wow.
He was actually taking notes.
Wow, he takes naming things seriously.
Yeah, very seriously. He had this little note sheet, and I could just see like little one-word things being written out on it. But
neat.
Yeah. But we looked at a bunch of stuff, and there's kind of a naming convention like in lo-fi, for example. Lucy and Lopass is another lo-fi artist.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of stick with that naming convention. I really like the double letters, the LL, the MM.
Right. The alliteration.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
We went through a whole bunch of things, and I'm from Hawaii originally. I was born there.
Oh, cool.
Kind of back and forth all the time. I've lived most of my like adult life in Vancouver, but
right. Keep it Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we talked about is that I've had like a very long journey back and forth into all these different places, and so Miles was like a a keyword that came up off of that.
Oh, yeah, so it's less
And,
about the name and more about the unit of measurement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also kind of about the name, because I
Right.
love Miles Davis.
Right.
He's a huge inspiration.
Huh.
I use a lot of brass in my songs.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of got to combine a whole bunch of things. I've been kind of like a loner, outcast, weird kid for a long time, so mono. Both doing mono in the music and being like a long journey alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's a lot of things that went into it actually, yeah.
I love when it's got so much to it. And I love how your story has so many like outside influences, right? And it's you're very community made, which is it's sort of a focus for what I'm trying to get out there with doing a podcast like this. So that's pretty neato.
Yeah, it's really important too, I think, with any art form in general. I mean, I could sit there and I'd probably still be 3 years behind where I am now if I hadn't had all the help, right?
Oh, yeah, no, you advance at triple the rate for every like extra talking head you have in your life kind of helping you out.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's like that's crucial. But that's a really cool sort of story. So you've been doing it. So but even like before COVID you were kind of just making
I was kind of messing around
stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your like musical background other than just like working on a computer?
Pretty much just that. I mean, I learned to play the bass.
Right.
But I'm not a bassist. I'm a bass player. I can play songs. I can't even read music.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
like,
I couldn't read a sheet of music.
Nobody can. That's
with a gun to my head. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nonsense.
But no, I was a DJ for a while. My main gig for many a year was lighting. I was a lighting designer.
Oh, okay.
I did like video playback, and I made visuals and
sweet
and all that stuff. I used to work at Celebrities, Harbor Event Center, a whole bunch of clubs downtown in Vancouver here.
Yeah.
And learning to DJ really changed my perspective of music.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's weird. DJing is like the very broad strokes of music production in a lot of ways. It's like you don't really know how it's all made, but you start to understand how it fits together.
Exactly.
And that's because I DJ'd for like 10 minutes, like I did like a couple of weddings and stuff, and by the time I was like, but it was, I started DJing after I'd been a musician for like over a decade, because I like started when I was 10 playing music, and the difference in coming at it, because a lot of people get into being a DJ because they're like, I like music, but I want to find a way to like express that, so they start by getting into like curation,
Yeah, that's exactly
right?
it. Yeah.
And then they trickle down from that into like, okay, well now I want to like now I've got like the big macro piece, now I want to get into the micro pieces, and then they become a producer, and then they kind of end up somewhere like, oh well, now I want to learn an instrument, and it's kind of this, whereas the other way around to that, the way I ended up at being, it's starting to like DJ for a little while, was like starting with an instrument and then getting into music production. It was like almost this sort of reverse journey, which is kind of neat. It's cool how you can see the difference in the people based on, like, because they think about music in different ways depending on which of those pipelines they went through, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you described basically the exact experience for me. I wanted to be a radio DJ. It was the first job I wanted to have when I was a kid. And I get all the time people coming up to me, because I've had the same voice since I was like 12 years old.
Right, yeah.
So I get people coming up to me, this little like 12-year-old chubby kid.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you've got such a good voice. Have you ever thought about being a radio DJ? And that really inspired me to do that. And music was always huge for me, in whatever capacity.
Right. Was that like a huge thing in your family? Like, do you have like a lot of musical people in your family? Or
well, growing up, my father was really musically inclined. And like we were very Christian when I was little, and he used to lead worship, and he played drums and guitar, and I grew up. It took about 10 years for him to learn to play it, but I grew up listening to every Sunday him trying to play Stevie Ray Vaughan on the guitar, and just twanging strings and not quite getting it. But
there's a lot of people that spend their life on the pursuit of, I need to sound like this particular Stratocaster guitar player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like the big three are like the dudes that are just like worship Hendrix, worship Stevie Ray Vaughan, or worship like John Mayer. And the John Mayer is kind of more like a younger generation of people, more millennials than like the Gen X or Gen Z. But
yeah, every time I try to play Stevie Ray Vaughan anywhere, everybody's like, dude, what is this boomer music?
Yeah,
I'm in the pool hall. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I still love it.
Yeah, it's it's still good. I was at a band practice the other day, and we were talking about we were talking about Zeppelin and how it's just like it's been a while since I've like listened to Zeppelin, because like being like, you know, as society in the last few years has kind of focused more on like social injustice, and you're like, man, a lot of the like early rock stars really sure did date a lot of 14-year-old girls, huh?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you know, and then it's like, and then you sort of like, and then it kind of taints your like your experience when you're listening to like Zeppelin or the Beatles or
Yeah.
any
Absolutely.
of those, and you're like, and then it kind of ends in a place where you're like, I don't really listen. I'm gonna try to listen to more new artists, and then, but then you come back around, you're like, fuck, I still love listening to Black Dog.
Yeah, it still
that still
every time.
slaps, you know.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy how it's like I can't undo what the music has done to my DNA, you know, and I can't hate on the Beatles all the time. It's still, you gotta recognize the game, you know.
Exactly. That's the real conflicting part of it, though.
Yeah.
The art is so good,
So
and
powerful.
You got that feeling inside, but it's still,
It's like, even though they stole it from black people, even though they like used it as an influence over like teenage girls who didn't know any better, you know, and probably got a bunch of people addicted to drugs.
Oh, guaranteed.
You know, like addicted, or but then there's like the positive impact is like how many people are musicians now and are better at expressing themselves as a human being, you know, as a result, and stuff like that. It's a you know, it's a tough calculation to do.
Yeah, I think it's impossible now.
Yeah. But I mean, as two white dudes, it's not up to us to do that.
That's true. You can take comfort in that.
I can safely say I do not have the answer, and I really stress that nobody come to me for it, you know.
Please. I'm ill prepared.
This is not, that is not what I'm here for. I'm here to take whoever comes up with the answer and go, all right, and then and just live out that way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amen to that.
So here's my my icebreaker question. I'm trying to work on like some podcast questions that I can ask like consistently to just I don't know, I want to see everybody's different answer to these specific questions. What is your like Spotify has given up song? So what I mean is, like, when you're listening to music on Spotify and you get to the end of like a playlist or an album or something, and it just like and it just starts playing shit on radio, and then there's one song for me in particular where I know it's just recommending me the same old shit that it always recommends me.
Right.
And it's the song for me is Inside Out by Spoon. Like, if I ever fall asleep listening to music, I'll usually wake up around the time Inside Out by Spoon comes on. and it's always like, oh, okay, so whatever, like, you know, playlist I had intentions of listening to before falling asleep is over now, and now Spotify's just like, okay, just play the stuff he likes, you know. And
Right.
So what's your Spotify has given up song?
Oh, I think the first one that always comes on is Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's the most common. It bounces around a lot because my Spotify is like really
diverse.
It's pretty diverse. Yeah,
right.
I have a lot of playlists set up, and
cool.
I rarely get to that point. But the last couple of times that I can think of, it's been that. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That song. It's such a good song.
A fucking Justified. That's a banger, solid album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my like underrated sort of guilty pleasure albums, and I'm less and less guilty about it all the time.
Yeah.
But I should it's weird how much the production in that record hasn't really aged super well. Like, it's very 2002.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
but it's also like the songwriting is still so, it transcends it in such a big way. It is so, it's like he's top form, and he's like, he hasn't even, in my opinion, like there's the Justin Timberlake career, because it was very, he did a lot. He was an actor, you know, or he tried to be an actor. He tried to be, you know, in a boy band.
He tried to be an actor.
There was a period around Justified where he tried very hard to, like, he was on Fallon all the time, and he was like in like romantic comedies. I think he was in a romantic comedy with like Mila Kunis at the time, right? Just to like to date it.
that.
Yeah, you know, and there was He tried a couple of those, and he was in I don't know if he actually, yeah, he actually had like a speaking role in Inside Llewyn Davis, which is like Coen Brothers movie. Yeah, starring fucking what's his name from Star Wars, Oscar Isaac. But yeah, he yeah, so there was a good period where he really tried to, and he did okay. There was an action movie. He did an action movie where you had like a number on your arm.
Oh yeah, you're spending your time.
Yeah, you're
right?
spending your time. Yeah. There was like they were like trying to say something about society.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, anyway, there's this whole like graph of just like how Justin Timberlake goes, and Justified for me is like 100, and everything else is like he peaks at like 30 maybe, you know. Like Justified is his 100 moment in time.
Oh yeah. I don't know, no shame. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time, and he came to Vancouver I think a year or two before the pandemic, and
Right, was it Man of the Woods or whatever? Yeah,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Which was also like not bad.
I never even listened.
Juicy J, pretty good.
Sure, yeah.
It's no Justified, but
yeah, exactly. I don't even bother. He's like he's never gonna touch it. He's never gonna touch it. So what could he do? What could he do that isn't like S tier like that? You know.
That's true.
When you saw him, what did he have? How choreographed were the dance moves?
It's incredibly
right.
And as a lighting guy, like it was amazing to see what they were doing. The lighting tracking they had. He had like a mic stand in the stage, but it was on like an articulating mount, and it had reflective tape all over it, and they were using the beams to like track it.
That's
as
sick.
he was dancing with it. It was so cool.
Yeah, I love when they just have one simple thing that is just a prop for an entire show. Like Queens of the Stone Age, when they did that tour where they had the big inflatable things that they were slapping around. Yeah, that was a rad show.
Oh yeah.
The Villains tour. Yeah, I think.
Era Vulgaris, first album I ever bought on vinyl. First
really?
LP.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite album of all time.
I think that was one of my first, or one of my only. That was my only physical Queens of the Stone Age like piece of media that I ever owned, because I'm not. I tried to be a vinyl guy for a while, but I don't know, I can't. Like, I like it, it's cool, you know, but I'm not, I spend too much money on other shit. But it was somebody gave me a CD of Era Vulgaris, and that was the only one I had, was like the deluxe edition CD.
Wow.
But yeah, Era Vulgaris is a crazy record.
I can't really think of anything else that compares to it, to be honest. There's nothing kind of in line with it. Like, it really stands out.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting about Queens of the Stone Age. It's is that they're kind of like Radiohead, in that they kind of change it up every record in a big way, which is nice. You know, at least in their last like 4 or 5 records. The first couple were a little, you know, samey, but they really change it around quite a bit, and that's what's cool about them. I like artists that, you know, reinvent themselves. You know, the Jack Whites and the Queens of the Stone Ages and the Arctic Monkeys. Yeah.
True. It is really important.
Yeah, you know, it's like nobody will ever do it as good as like Bowie, but you know.
I mean, you could say that about anything that Bowie did, though, I think.
Yeah, it's true. Like, even his like I'm sure he's got his stories of being a rock star and being problematic, but I'm sure he was probably the lowest on the totem pole in terms of people being offensive, just given how respectful he was of every culture he, you know, existed within.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of been something that I've been noticing too. Is I started making lo-fi, and it was just lo-fi for years, and then I'm working on an EP right now, and I think the last 6 or 7 songs, like, none of them have been anything like that. Just complete transition.
Oh yeah.
Kind of interesting to me, but it's really important to me too, because I don't want to get bored making the same stuff all the time and playing with the same sounds constantly. Like, it felt a little trapping.
Yeah.
But also there's some conflict, because it's like, well, I've got this project now, and it's a very defined project in terms of its sound. Do I just say screw it and totally do something completely different and just have a really varied catalog, or do I? Because everybody in my life that makes music, for the most part, makes EDM, and it's all very genre in a box.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, that's how you grow is the problem, right? When you fucking bounce all over the place, it's very easy to because it feels like you're starting over every time you're trying to build an audience or build a, get people involved. And it's like, because I do that with myself where I release a single as I finish it, and then it's usually like my last 3 songs were all in a totally different fucking genre. Yeah. And it's always just like, I feel like I've got to like research all the playlist curators every time, that I go on a pitch to every time I put music out, or I've got to research, all this. I just, versus if you're like in a fucking metal band, or if you make, tropical house,
Exactly.
it's like you get a stable of 30 or 40 people that that you can just send it to, and they'll it's a dangerous game being too all over the place, but it's also like, how could you not, like that's the whole point of me being expressive and being a musician, is you're.
And if you're constantly expressing the same things, I almost think there's a little something there,
Yeah. It's like, well, what do you need to work through it, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So what sort of sounds are you experimenting with right now?
A lot of like wave bass.
Okay.
I made a witch house song today.
Weird.
Which is way out of my wheelhouse. It still
Spooky.
sounds like me, which I really like. I'm trying to find ways to maintain my sound so people can listen to it and still be like, oh, it's a Miles Mono song.
Right.
But vary the genre. I made a witch house song. I made like an 8-bit chiptune song.
Cool.
It's really bouncing around.
Cool.
I made a like a summer tropical housey song.
Right.
And it just doesn't all fit.
No,
and I don't know. Like,
you're trying to find the through line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the order of events here exactly? Yeah.
And is it all also instrumental, or are you like experimenting with like using your voice? Because that's a really easy way to like literally use your voice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I honestly, I have huge stage fright that extends to recording my own voice on my own songs.
Right. Yeah.
I've done vocals for a couple of friends' songs, and I do sing.
Yeah.
I was in Catholic school, so I learned to be a choir boy.
Right.
For a long time.
Helpful.
And I'm pretty comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a booth and it's just the booth.
Yeah.
And there's nothing around me and nobody's looking at me. It doesn't matter how many people are in the other room listening. It's totally fine. But if it's my song and it's going to be a project that I'm putting out, it's kind of terrifying. So on To Be Determined, there's a lot of like background vocal noises and effects noises that are my voice, but never anything super forward in the track. And the things that I'm making, I'm sampling a lot of vocals.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of it is me personally. And there's also something I much prefer to work with female vocals to male vocals as well.
That makes sense. Yeah. Like I there's like I find myself like singing in a really high falsetto all the time, and it's because part of it is it's easier to mix, and I think there's just this inherent, like, when you have your music producer brain on, you're like, you're looking for where to put things so that they're gonna sit properly. And I find female vocals are really like they just, a lot of guitars and like bass and synths and a lot of other samples tend to just fill up the same sort of frequency range, Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's really cool. So as far as how long have you been in Vancouver?
In Vancouver, I was.
And why? Why?
Individually, I moved here in 2017.
Right.
And I've stuck around since, but it's been kind of back and forth my whole life. So like 6 months old in Hawaii, I moved over here, stayed here till I was 6 years old, moved back to Hawaii, was there till I was like 10, here for 2 years, back for a couple of years, and then with all the back and forth, finally in 2017, I stuck around, but I just didn't feel right being in Hawaii. Right. Culturally, I never really fit in. I mean, I'm glowing in the light. Right. Yeah. I stick out like a sore thumb. Right. Because I was kind of a punk kid as well. Like, I was a metalhead in high school, and that didn't really fit in there. Right. And then the opportunity as well.
Different vibe.
Totally different vibe from everybody I knew. Yeah. And there were like 3 of us that I knew on the island that would hang out and listen to metal. And I had a little, we had like super deep hedges. Right. And I found they'd like overgrown a lawn chair, and I had an idea, so I cut out like a 6 foot deep and 10 foot long space in the hedges, and we used to have a little hang spot with speakers and lawn furniture.
Little
pulled a big mirror in there. And,
secret metal.
Exactly, yeah. Listening to Iron Maiden, smoking weed in the bushes.
Yeah.
But, and then for job opportunity and education as well. The education system in Hawaii is not great.
I would imagine, it's kind of I would imagine the economy is kind of singularly focused.
yeah, I think 48th state in the United States for education, so pretty rough, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So if you want to know anything.
If you want to know anything or make a, living wage,
right.
you kind of got to be over here.
Yeah, you get all the, like, the abandonment of the U.S. government combined with the isolation of being on an island. So
and an island of people who have been colonized too. Or not too
stoked.
Not stoked on that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well that's cool. And then and so you came over here just to get into like sort of the film industry or into live production?
I was in, like, sales and business, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I started doing the lighting stuff when I was, like, 12 at a church, and I never really stopped doing it. It's something you can learn and practice, on your own in your computer in your room without buying equipment. But, yeah, when I moved over here in 2017, I ended up being in an HR department for an accounting firm.
Yeah.
And worked myself to the bone.
Right.
Hated every day. I was so depressed.
Yeah.
I was living in White Rock.
It sounds horrible.
And commuting to, like, the financial, like, Burrard Street every day.
Ew.
And then working, like, 10 hours, and then 2 hours home and 2 hours back. Hardly enough time to sleep. I hated it. Gave myself a pretty nasty concussion. We were moving from one office to another. Our lease ran up. We had, like, 200 plus employees. It was really intense. My boss, 2 weeks before the move, just stopped showing up. Nobody ever told me why he didn't show up or where he went. And, we didn't have any of the planning that he was supposed to have done.
Right.
So it all fell on me, and I'm working like 80 hours a week to get this done. And the last day, I drop a big-ass bin right on my head and just clocked right out. And after being in a concussion rehab for about a month, it was about 2 months in total, I had to be in the rehab program.
Wow.
I kind of decided, fuck working a 9 to 5.
Not for me.
I don't want to be working a day job like that. I don't want to slave away for somebody else. And
right.
Went right back into the lighting. I had a connection in the industry, thankfully. And
sweet.
Yeah, and he got me in. And I spent quite a few years doing that, which was nice,
Cool. So, and then through that, you like kind of got into DJing as well as as like an income stream,
Yeah. Well, it was mostly as a creative thing, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Because the income from working the shows was great.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. Once you get to the point where you need a lighting guy, it's usually you're getting paid okay. Yeah.
I mean, the pay was all right in Vancouver. The industry is pretty sleazy, and it was hard to get paid for work that I'd been contracted to do. It, not getting paid for a month and a half after you're doing a job, and then getting paid like the minimum industry level it was rough.
You got to be your own enforcer,
Yeah, and you got to pick the places that you're working with. I think is the most important part, right? So I ended up working with Blueprint for a long time because of that, because they were steady, but they paid the worst.
Yeah, well, that's how it is always,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, like my lowest paying gigs are always working for some other company, and then working for. But whenever I work something out myself and do all the legwork and do everything, you get paid great. But, yeah. But I was Blueprint's most senior tech at Celebrities for a long while, and being in that position, it was my responsibility to take care of all the gear and to be running maintenance on it and to be checking it for problems. And the way that I negotiated doing that was I would come in and DJ whenever I pleased. Really, when the club was closed, I had the keys and security code and whatever. So I just and the biggest motivation to start DJing was that I would sit at these shows and I hear people just mashing transitions. It was so painful, and I was sitting there going, I know I could do better than this. Yeah, no,
I know for a fact this guy's up here making $400 an hour.
Yeah, it's insane what you hear some DJs get away with and make money doing. Like like just 2 songs in different keys, just
crush filter
at the
and
same
just
time. And I'm just like. You can tell the music people in the crowd because you just see all their shoulders go up, and they're
there's
just
always
like,
that one group of dudes at the back just criticizing,
like not even arms crossed. Like I'll be like dancing and then I'll just slow down. And they're like, oh, it feels like you're suddenly made of concrete.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a. Yeah, I do not envy. What some DJs have to probably put up with, in terms of like no, you have to. It's my birthday. You have to play this song next.
Oh, the worst. Oh my gosh! And as a lighting guy, we're standing most of the time at the back of the room looking at the stage head on, just like we're in the crowd.
Yeah.
And so many people, so many drunk people coming up to me.
Yeah.
Hey, can I request a song? Of course, slurring and
right,
horrible with their words.
And they're yelling.
Just being super pushy, screaming, of course, every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just couldn't even tell the difference. And that kind of made me laugh, too. These DJs are up there doing that job, and people don't even know who that, like...
They don't even know. Yeah, they just see you standing in front of digital equipment.
Switches,
yeah. It's like, and it's like, I was working at the Anza Club recently as a sound guy, and the way the Anza Club's laid out is just like one big long bar along the side, and then you actually order your drinks at like the corner, and I was at the far end of this bar where the sound table is set up, and there was a lineup of people trying to order drinks from me.
Classic.
Yeah, and I'm just like and they all one at a time came up to me and were like, "Can I get a screwdriver or whatever?" And I'm like I'm the sound guy, you know, and I would point over to where, like, go over there, you know, and they would, and we're yelling, we're having a yelling conversation because there's a band playing, and then they'd be like, "Oh, just sorry, bud," and then they'd go over there, and then the next person in line would come up to me. I'm like, how is this, like that's. It's I guess that if that's two people, you know, that if that happens to two people in a row, that's one thing, right? Yeah. If somebody comes up to me and they think the person behind them thinks they're talking to the bartender, they say something and then they're like, okay, that guy must have been asking where the bathroom was or something. And then but then for that to happen like 5 people deep, it was just like yeah, people that anybody standing at a piece of equipment is there to do whatever it is that you think it is you need to ask them to do, right? Yeah. I mean, you know, the way she goes. Yeah. So, have you done any shows with the Miles Mono project?
I have not. No, not a single one.
I guess with it being COVID born, it's a
little difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also with the lo-fi projects, that's something I've kind of been struggling with a little bit, is how do I bring this in a live aspect? Where's the appropriate environment for it? You know, because I can't go play a normal show and drop a bunch of lo-fi and down tempo.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and then and then have like, I mean, I guess if you were working with like that'd be a cool thing to do, like in between sets at like a rap show, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Or something like that. But it's like it's a bit of a weird. Especially in Vancouver, because Vancouver has a huge like underground club scene, you know.
It does,
and there's you know, and it's like, and it's very unreported on, you know, and it's not something that it's like even I don't know if Vancouver has like an international sort of like I don't know if people know.
I don't think so.
You know, and it's
really
like there's a bunch of real like secret warehouse shows going on with these like crazy electronic artists.
Yeah, and they go all night.
Yeah. I worked one of them one time, and it was just in a warehouse somewhere, and I was just running sound for, you know, it's like for rappers, so it's just like riding the fader on a wireless microphone, right. You know, because I love, one of my favorite things as a working sort of person in the music industry is seeing a brand new rapper, a brand new first show ever rapper, because a first show ever band is like, you know, it's its own thing, and it's, you know, it's a growing experience, and it's something I understand very well. I've never rapped in my life, but I love watching somebody who like who's been working and like paying somebody to make like download beats from YouTube for them, and,
right.
and so that they can put their first record out, and they're up there and they've got like all the like cliched lines. They haven't quite figured themselves out yet, but they're like, I'm the realist, you know, and they get up there and they just they do one of two things. They either just stand there and just do the album like with the DJ behind them, just crossfading from song to song, or they start jumping around and realize very quickly how hard it is to rap quickly and jump around like that. I don't have the cardiovascular strength to do this because it's
you can hear it.
Yeah, and you hear them do 2 songs and then they're like whispering for the rest of it, or just like standing perfectly still for a little while, and then just like You see them like get control of themselves, and that's
it's the third song, Sweats. That's how you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I love watching a brand new rapper. And so anyway, I was running sound for this rap show that was running from like 8 to 10, and then after that it was just DJs until like 4 a.m. But but the thing is it's all club music. You know, it's very singularly focused and
four to the floor.
Yeah,
for the most part, yeah.
And what's interesting about it is that's kind of the only scene like that in Vancouver. You know, there isn't really a huge like they even like DIY punk shows and metal shows and stuff like that. At least to not that I know about. You know, maybe
Fair.
it's more underground than I have contacts, right? But it's a lot of, you know, there's a very small sort of economy for that sort of stuff here because everything's so kind of expensive. And a big club show, you know, if you got like an underground bar or you're selling drugs or any of those things, it's a lucrative thing, right? Yeah, you got a bunch of you know, you got a bunch of metalheads. For the most part, they're all broke.
Yeah.
You know, you can pack rich kids in and they're like charging $40 at the door, you know, and it's like just money, you know, printing money. But it's hard to make a lot of money that way with a bunch of other traditional music because the equipment's different and the staff is different, and it's
totally different.
Yeah, and then sort of between the cracks of those two sort of industries is like the lo-fi down tempo.
Yep.
So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum I hadn't really thought about because I like my roommate makes like ambient tape loop music.
Nice.
Right, and it's like what do you do with that?
You know? Exactly.
Yeah, same thing. You know, it's like you almost need like to just get all 100 of the artists in town that do that and just have them all play one show together.
Yeah.
Because they all have songs that are like, you know 90 seconds, between 90 seconds and 90 minutes. And so
with very little in between.
Yeah, that's what I've found. Yeah, with a lot of the sort of more niche electronic kind of musics. But yeah, it's a very interesting conundrum. So what do you have you sort of thought about how to market that sort of stuff, or is it something you're just kind of waiting for the universe to present?
Yeah, it's kind of been on the back of my mind. I think about it every now and then, but it's not like a main focus. I've kind of come to a point where I've accepted that it's mostly not for live consumption.
No.
I'm mostly not going to be doing the shows.
Yeah.
Most of the time people listen to the music is while they're doing other things.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't listen to it to party. You don't listen to it as a main focus most of the time. So.
Study, sleep, /chill too.
Exactly. Yeah. Go out for a bike ride, have it on in the background or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I've just been focusing mostly
making more.
on just making more.
Yeah.
And trying to develop myself and really put myself out there. So.
Well, what do you well, it seems like you're coming from a very pure place of doing this. It's like very aspirational. Not aspirational.
It's mostly just expression.
Expression.
If people like it.
Expressive.
Like
that's the word.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I mean, I only started making music in the first place for myself to listen to because I liked it, and everything else has been other people along the way asking me why I haven't put it out or why I don't have a project about it or whatever, you know, it may be. So
that's the best place to be.
Yeah.
I'm coming at it from the I need to do this for a living since I was 5, like my mindset where it's like I spent a long time and still to struggle with carrying all of my self-worth on how my music is doing, right? And so it's a very I find again the people that go through the opposing sort of pipelines end up with two different sort of the people that start doing it just going like, oh man, I love music, and then you get into DJing, and then you get into producing, and then you get into instruments and stuff like that. Those sorts of people have a much better time than
having
the
a lot
people.
Of fun. It's going nowhere right now, but I'm having a lot of fun.
But it doesn't have to, which is a beautiful thing, and I envy you deeply, you know. So I have a feeling you're gonna succeed at whatever it is you don't plan to do, you know.
I've had a total career switch lately too. I'm completely out of the music industry now. I'm going back to school, so that's been a bit of a shift too. I haven't been making a lot outside of the last couple of weeks. It's not really been a main focus either,
Right.
Yeah. But now that I'm like taking breaks from it and I'm not immersed in it, I find the quality of the ideas that I'm getting is so much richer.
Well, that's awesome.
There's so much more to it. So
Yeah.
a lot of good progress. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and that's I hope that you get the opportunity to do it. Like just have it continue to be as fulfilling as it's been for you, because that's what we're kind of hoping for. And you're also somebody that seems to like really look at who's around you, in the community, and really become a part of it, because you reached out to me to do this, which is cool. You saw the potential for how amazing this podcast is, and you're like, I gotta
10 out of 10.
I simply must, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And you were already a part of like the Vancouver Discord, which y'all should join. I'll out of focus point at you, but for anybody who's in like the Vancouver music community and wants to just kind of mingle a little bit, it's still a growing community. It's not really doing very much right now, but I want to continue to kind of funnel people over there. But it's people that want to be a part of the community, and you've got this nice little origin story and this little arc that you're working on that sounds like I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. And especially with music, it's always felt to me like you got to be very selective with the people that you're around. And not only that, but those people can be just so important to not only like the success of your journey, but the way you're feeling along the way, the amount of support you have, right? Which just influences the whole thing. It's like each individual piece adds another element and totally changes the end product.
It's just a new variable in the equation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's rad. Well, I appreciate you coming down to do this. I'm going to probably wrap it up a little bit here. And thank y'all for listening to the Aridonis Podcast. Go check out Miles Mono on Spotify. And now you understand the story. See if you can fill in some of the blanks with the music and, see what dots you can connect. I'm Aridonis. You can find me at Aridonis, but follow both of us on our social media journeys. Because Miles Mono posts some great memes as well.
Are those meme lord?
Yeah, are those reposts, or there's some original content there?
80% reposts.
Oh, okay,
yeah, it depends.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, thanks all for checking it out, and I will be back sometime with somebody else. Okay, thanks. Bye.